Hey YA, so it's Monday morning, but I'm doing last Friday's Hey YA for Acts 17 and 18 just because, life gets busy sometimes. So I'm trying to get mine in today before Kelly's later on today, which is actually what today's is, Acts 19. But Acts 17 and 18, we see Paul traveling in his missionary journeys. Something really, really sticks out though, as he goes to the Greeks. He crafts this message in chapter 17 that a lot of people hold up as the way to preach. But something happens or doesn't happen, which is there's no church planted there. There's no church planted where he is. There's a few at the end of the passage. It says, a few people believed, and they said, mostly just come back tomorrow and we'll hear a little bit more. But Paul doesn't. Paul moves on. And if you read through his message there, it's very well crafted in terms of trying to be relevant to the audience who he was in front of, the Greeks. But find a place where he talks about Christ and him crucified. It's just not in there. And he doesn't see a whole lot of fruit. But he moves on to Corinth. And if you know anything about Corinth would have a church planted that was alive and that was growing. There was so much fruit. There was so much response to the gospel. And if you look at what Paul is saying in Corinth, it's like he shows up on the scene and it's like, and it says this, I don't have the verse in front of me, but it says, I resolved to preach Christ and him crucified. And he talks about it so much more than he did when he was back at the Greeks. It's like he figured out, I can talk in a way that will tickle people's ears and will get their attention and will relate to them. I can do that, but I just didn't see a whole lot of fruit come from that. So I'm just going to preach about Christ because Christ and the cross is something that just cuts through every culture, cuts through every dynamic or way of living. It cuts to at the heart of every person because it's in essence what every person needs. God's biggest deed is our biggest need, and that was Christ on the cross. So as you go through those, I know it was last week's reading, but maybe make a note for the next time you're in that area that look at Paul's message through 17 and just see what he learned, which was without Christ and him crucified, there's just no power in the message. There's some power, but not the power that you have when you teach Christ and him crucified on the cross and our need for that. So think about it.